Prairie Yard and Garden is a production of the University of Minnesota Morris in cooperation with Pioneer Public Television. Closed captioning is provided by Mark and Margaret Yankel Julien in honor of Shalom Hill Farm, a nonprofit rural education retreat center in a beautiful prairie setting near Windham in southwestern Minnesota. Shalom Hill Farm, shalomhill.org.
There are many display gardens throughout the state of Minnesota. Today we are visiting Umore Park at Rosemont, just south of the Twin Cities. Join me on Prairie Yard and Garden as we explore the display gardens at Umore Park. Today we're at a display garden in Rosemont, Minnesota called Umore Park, part of the University of Minnesota's display gardens. Joining me today is Barbara Stensdahl, a former master gardener who's been active in putting this garden together. Welcome to the show, Barbara.
Welcome, Larry. I want to invite everybody to come out to see our beautiful garden. It is actually the Master Gardener Education and Research Display Garden, so we have a very long name, but it captures exactly what we do out here. So there is lots of education, there is a lot of research done by master gardeners and by the staff at the university or faculty, and then also a lot of display gardens to get people out here. So we started the garden in 2000. I was asked by Dr. Philip Larson at the university and by Bob Mugas, extension educator, to see if we wanted to have some kind of a presence out here at Umore Park at that time. And I think they were kind of thinking that we would come and we would beautify the place to make it look a little bit more welcoming to the public. Well, I said that's good, but what we want to do is more than that. We want an outdoor classroom so we can do environmental education right here for the public. So it's taken many years. This is our 10th anniversary this year. We have 35 gardens plus out here, all planned, planted, and maintained by master gardeners in our Dakota County program. And each garden has its own hierarchy. We have a chairperson for each garden and a committee for each garden, and then there are also general committees. So out of those 35, we have a lot of labor that goes on out here. But it's all done with the premise of there's research in every garden, there's education in every garden. We do a junior master gardener camp here in the summertime, and the junior master gardeners have their own plots. So it's part gardening education, but they also have this whole 6 acres right here to roam about and learn about all the different gardens that we have here. So there are a lot of science lessons in biology and botany and everything else you could think of. Also, every Tuesday evening we have what we call Tuesday Evening in the Garden here, and during the season, and the public is invited to come and take classes, and they range from learning about dahlias, how to grow dahlias, to butterfly gardening like we have in here. The classes are taught right in each one of our gardens, so it's pretty much a hands-on kind of a presentation. And those have been very popular for us. We also have our plant health care clinics here. So the public can drop by on Tuesday evenings, bring a diseased plant or insect sample, and they'll get advice from one of our certified master gardeners on how to handle that pest in their home garden.
Well, it sounds very comprehensive.
It is.
Must have a fairly large group of individuals who participate.
We have about 140 master gardeners. They're very well organized. They are a wonderful bunch. So some of our gardens are, this is our butterfly garden. Everything that you need for the life cycle of the butterfly is right here in this garden. So the nectar plants, such as the dill and some of the other herbs, are right here. There's water for puddling, which is a behavior that the butterflies do. They soak up salts through the liquids that they suck up. And then there's also there's butterfly bush and a lot of other plants that they can attach to so they can complete their life cycle here. So that's part of the learning. We have a state-of-the-art blueberry garden here where we're doing University of Minnesota research, trialing some of the new blueberry plants versus some of the older varieties.
Do you have to amend the soil in this part of the state, I would suspect?
Very much so. It took us 3 years to get that planted, so we really worked on that soil to get it to a point where it was just perfect. And then we also have a special watering system just for that garden, so it's more acidic for those blueberries. We have an area here where we have the ball seed trials. I think we're the only volunteer group in the nation that does trialing for the Ball Seed Company, which is one of the largest in the world. And every year we grow annuals for them that we evaluate and send in our report to them, just like they do at Morris. And then the following year, some of those might be out on the market. So the ones that you see here are not on the market yet, but we test and see how well they're doing in this part of Minnesota. We do a lot of docent tours here too. We have a group of master gardeners that are specially trained in the whole history and the ins and outs of each one of our 35 gardens. Those have been very popular with outstate master gardener groups. So we welcome master gardener groups from Morris and all over to come and see our garden. We have one of the largest rose gardens in the area, and it's all hardy shrub roses because the emphasis here is low maintenance gardening. We don't use the Minnesota tip. All of the roses that are out here have to live on their own throughout our harsh winters. So, and the whole emphasis all over is low maintenance gardening. We also have heirlooms out here. We have an heirloom vegetable garden that is just a delight. It's kind of interesting to see how some of these heirlooms, to see what the early version of a particular vegetable is, because we're familiar now with the modern day varieties, the hybrids, but to see the open pollinated ones, it's kind of an interesting contrast.
Well, you've got the heirlooms, but do you have a vegetable trial where we're looking at some of the new varieties?
Yes, we have a very large area of the Minnesota State Master Gardener vegetable trials out here. And we have a whole committee of master gardeners that maintain that area and very carefully take all the data necessary to report to the state program. Visitors can come here and see which vegetables are really unique and grow well here in Minnesota, so they know for planting their garden for next year. And also, as you know, that material is also published every year too. So.
Well, I see and hear a water feature. What's going on over there?
Yes, we have a kind of a state-of-the-art water garden here that was donated. The water garden itself is rather large. I'm not exactly sure how many gallons and things, but we do have a pond that is a biological filter for the plants in there and for the water. And then we have a stream and a bridge and then a little waterfall, and it goes down into the main pond. It's a very peaceful area to sit. We have benches out there where people can just go and sit and listen to the water, and it's nicely planted with a lot of flowers and shrubs, so it's a very peaceful area.
And you just recently had an open house evening or event here?
Yes, we did. We had, I think it was about 2,200 people here in 4 hours. 90 of our master gardeners were here to help put it on. It's actually the Umore Park open house, so there's a lot of agricultural information. A lot of the university departments are here, and we have hay rides and free corn, and it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of education that goes on that evening. A lot of gardening classes and tours by the Master Gardeners, and it's just a very popular evening in this area.
Good. Well, I want to go over and look at the vegetable trials. I'm always interested in what's new out there. But first of all, I want to thank you, Barbara, for taking time out of your busy day to spend with us and bring us up to date on this wonderful park here at Umore. Well, I'm over in the vegetable trial gardens, and I'm visiting with Marcus Battistini, who's participated here for a number of years. And Marcus, what is the purpose of this garden?
Well, the purpose of the vegetable trials is to provide information for gardeners in Minnesota about certain types of vegetables. And each year the university selects 3 or 4 vegetables to do a test on. And this year we're highlighting eggplants.
Well, I see we have 3 classic examples here.
This one is a new variety for me, and it will stay green, and we haven't done the taste test yet, but we will find out soon how this compares to the standard purple varieties.
What kind of data do you collect in this trial?
Well, primarily we collect taste tests and production, how much each plant produces, so that gardeners will have an idea when they read their seed catalogs which kind of eggplant to choose.
Well, how many people are collecting data? Is it going to be important that we have a large sample?
Well, we have volunteer master gardeners throughout the state doing this trial, and there's about 200 of them. We collect the data in the fall, and the data gets published in Northern Gardener in the March or April issue.
Okay, well, tell me, how do we go about this process of selecting what vegetables are going to be put in a trial garden on a yearly basis?
Well, there's the university selects 3 or 4 vegetables to test each year, and we go through the catalogs just like anyone else would go through catalogs in January and February when they all come in the mail. And each year we try and do something a little bit different. Usually there's some tomatoes or peppers. This year we decided eggplants would be a good trial.
What are the other 3-4 vegetables that are involved this year?
Well, we have fennel, which is here, and we have cilantro, which is on the other side, and we also do some flower trials.
Interesting. I wasn't aware that flowers were involved in the set of trials.
Some master gardeners stay away from vegetables, so we need to include as many people as we can.
And how many people are involved in your committee to make all these selections? And
there's 6 people who help with the selections, and they're master gardeners throughout the 7-county metro area.
And you sit down, what, once a year and go through that?
Well, we sit down more than once a year because we have to select, and then we have to go through the seed catalogs and find seeds that fit our budget. We try to get seeds from seed catalogs that anybody could use rather than going to special sources.
And what was unique about these eggplants? Why were they selected?
Well, we selected these eggplants because we were looking for more of the Oriental style eggplant rather than the bulbous type eggplants. And we wanted to know how the taste would compare.
And in your experience, you haven't tasted them all yet, but do you have a preference?
Actually, this one right here, I really like, Oriental Charm. It has a lighter taste, and it doesn't get woody quite as quickly.
And you think these do tend to get on the woody side?
Well, they get big so fast, and they do get woodies, but we'll find out when we do our taste test.
Well, I know when growing them, I prefer this as a single individual. I can eat one of these, but once these get mature size, it's 2-3 days.
More than you can eat in a sitting, yes.
Exactly. So, okay. Well, I want to thank you for sharing your information about
all right, thank
these
you.
vegetable trials. Well, now I'm over in the Junior Master Gardener's garden, and I have with me two Junior Master Gardeners with the Dakota Master Gardener program, Evan and Anna. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
How long you been in this program?
This is my third year.
This is my second.
Second year. And what do you learn when you get involved?
The essentials, what plants need, also about plant sicknesses, certain bugs that threaten plants, that stuff. How to garden.
And what vegetables have you decided to grow this year?
Well, peppers.
I
For
see you got a
example, this
jalapeno there. Is that your favorite?
One of my favorite things to grow besides basil.
I see. Anna?
And I grew some tomatoes and carrots and onions, and I also grew some peppers, but
Oh, I see a pepper here. This your plot right here.
yeah.
Why? And what do you need to do? Do you come out here once a week to do the weeding, or?
Every
Yeah,
Tuesday night,
pretty
and
much.
yeah, we weed and harvest when it's ready.
Do any of the adults sneak over here and try to sneak some of your vegetables?
Not really.
Oh, I see. And are there educational sessions on Tuesday nights? Do you learn?
We learn a few things on certain days. Even get a little homework here and there.
Homework?
Yeah.
I thought you were trying to get away from homework.
Well, you have to pick a plant from your garden and then write a report about it, and then you
Then
turn
also
it
you have
in.
to bring a, well, they didn't do it this year, but
Yeah.
other years you had to bring a bug. Once I brought a snail, and it was really hard to catch, and the teacher, John, he just took some salt, asked for one of the snails, and just salted it, throwing away all the hard work. But, hey, it was probably just for the example.
Yeah.
How to get rid of it.
So every Tuesday night you got a little different lesson.
Well,
pretty
yeah,
much.
most nights.
And I understand one night you might talk about bugs and one night you talk about diseases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you get a chance to take any of this and show it off?
Well, I have a garden plot at home. Thanks to this, I grow lots of things.
Yeah,
Tomatoes, carrots, pumpkins, white pumpkins, and purple carrots.
Ooh. Do you eat purple carrots?
Well, it's just like an exotic type of carrot, and I figured may as well grow it. It's gonna look cool.
Sure.
Yeah,
Same as any ordinary carrot, just this purple.
I see.
yeah. You can also go to the. You can also, if anything's ready by the time the Dakota County Fair is ready, you can enter it, and then you can win a prize or not win anything.
And you can even make delicious stuff, like purple basil. You can make purple basil lemonade. You just have to like soak it in you gotta soak it in water, purple basil leaves in water, put it on the stove for a while, let it boil. Around like 30 or 50, I can't remember how many minutes, like maybe 30 or 50, and then you mix it with lemonade mix, and it actually adds a bit of a more interesting flavor and stuff.
Well, I'm going to try that. Wow, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, my mom is in the herb garden. She's in charge of that. So we make a lot of pesto and cilantro and stuff like that.
Well, I want to thank you guys for sharing your little knowledge about your Junior Master Gardener plots out here.
I have a question. I've been told that you can grow spinach on a trellis. Is this true?
Yes, it can, but this is not a true spinach, but it is a spinach substitute that you can grow during the summer. But the thing is, you got to start it early, like in April. Start it out, from a seed, so that you can plant it out the 1st of June. This was planted the 1st of June, and you can see how vigorous it is right now, and it's growing fine even now, even in the cold, where some of the other plants are looking kind of peaked. Disease-free, and what you would harvest would be some of the younger leaves, plus you can do the stems as well, and it has a very similar spinach taste to it, and you can do the same things that you would do with spinach, that you would do with Malabar spinach. It's a weak climber, but it's better than sweet potato. it'll grow upward, where sweet potato wants to constantly, fall over. So, but you still have to guide it up. But yeah, and we've harvested basket loads from this trellis, and we have some in the salad garden as well.
Ask the Arboretum Experts has been brought to you by the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum in Chanhassen, dedicated to enriching lives through the appreciation and knowledge of plants.
Well, now I've moved over into the herb garden, and with me is Sherry Meyer, who's a Dakota Master Gardener and in charge of this particular garden. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
And
Happy
what
to be
can
here.
you tell me about all these herbs you have here?
Well, I've been project lead for the last 5 years out here in the herb garden, and we have grown primarily 95% of all the herbs here from seed. And so we try new things every year. This year we have some really unusual things, just like any year. So this is one of ours that we just don't quite know what it'll do in a Minnesota summer, but this is chia. So if you're familiar with that little cute Scooby-Doo head or whatever at your local department store or something.
Everybody sells at Christmas time?
Yes, the chia pet.
Yep.
And well, that's what this plant is. So we thought it'd be fun to try. It's the new super green. So an ounce of these seeds from this plant are supposed to give you as much calcium as a cup of milk, as much fiber as a third cup of bran, as much iron as a third cup of spinach, as much omega-3 as 8 ounces of salmon.
You're kidding.
No, and it's quite remarkable. So we are just holding our breath and crossing our fingers that this thing will go to seed for us before the frost hits, which is typically our first or second week in September here. So.
Well, I question if it's going to make her.
I know, Larry. I'm not holding my breath too hard. The frosts do come here in Rosemount quite early for us, but at the very least, we're going to see if we can get it going, and maybe we'll try it a little earlier next year for its growth habits.
So you started this one from seed?
We
out
did.
Here in the garden?
Actually, at the University of Minnesota greenhouses, where we start everything indoors unless we're going to direct sow into the garden. And this was when we tried inside, and so he's been growing since April of this year. So we transplanted June 3rd, that first Saturday. That's when we do our big planting day out here. And the catalog said he would get 3 feet tall. So I think he's inching up to the 5 feet mark pretty close. So I was hoping that he would be going to seed already, but he's not.
Well, tell me a little bit about some of the other plots you have in the garden.
Sure. Every year we have a theme, and for the last 4 years we've been focusing primarily on culinary herbs. This year we're doing something a little different, and it's going to be on bee research. So we are trying to deliberately grow herbs that are going to blossom, which is a little unusual. Usually you're growing herbs, culinarily speaking, for the leaves,
right,
and then use them in cooking, so you don't want to have the bloom happen. But we're doing that a little different. So it's been a really fun year to let things that primarily we'd be grooming and not letting it flower and see what happens and see what kind of bee activity that we get. Here's one of the squares in the garden that we have purposely put a lot of lavender in. And we've grown 4 different varieties of lavender. And we're hoping to kind of watch the bee activity. We're out here every week doing bee counts and seeing how much bees are wandering on the different herbs out here in the garden. These 4 varieties of lavender are not zone hardy to Minnesota. So our Hidcote and our Munstead, we have those in the garden. It's farther that way. But these 4 are not zone hardy. They're more zone 5 or 6. But we've learned from experience the last 5 years, our zone 5 or 6 lavenders do fine out here through the winters. And I'm not really sure why, because we don't use any winter mulch in the garden at all. We don't cover anything, and they survive quite nicely. So maybe it's just a kind of a shorter lived perennial life cycle for the lavenders. The challenge with lavender, of course, is to get it to bloom first year from seed. And so some of these we brought in as transplants. We ordered them in as plugs. Others we did grow from seed. And so some are blooming and some are not. So we're really crossing our fingers that they'll make it through the winter, at least a couple of next years, be able to do some bee research on them and get them into full bloom. So what we're hoping to do is find a correlation. We're taking that bee count research, so we're actually, watching and counting bees on a particular herb, and we're keeping track of all that. We'll take that data, compile it. We're taking pictures of the blooms also, and what we're hoping to do is bees see their blooms in UV light. So we're hoping for a way to translate the pictures that we take of the blooms into UV colors, and then find a correlation between the herbs that they prefer and that UV light that we're going to find, which means bees like the purple and blue end of the spectrum. And so we're hoping that if they're really all over the oregano, which is over there, and they're just crazy about the oregano and like the lemon balm and bee balms, that those blooms we'll find are in the blue violet spectrum.
Okay.
And having said that, I don't think this kind of research has been really done. We've been collaborating with one of our Dakota County Master Gardeners, Joanne Sabin, who does an awful lot of bee talks and is an extensive expert in that area. So we've been working with her and saying, well, what kind of herbs would we be growing and how can we do this? So she's also a photographer, so translating from pictures to UV, little tricky. We haven't quite crossed that bridge yet, but we're hoping to.
What else do we have in the herb garden?
Well, we have a beautiful display of basil that both we have purple and we have green varieties. The purple is a brand new variety out this year. From seed, traditionally our purple basils have not been able to hold their color. They like to be mottled or revert to green or to come out speckled. So one of my favorite purple basils is Purple Ruffles basil, and that one I've always had trouble with germinating. So this year they have a new variety called Rosie. And so we tried and germinated that, and it's been spectacular, although it tends to bleed as the leaves get older, but the growth has been really uniform and the color has been really uniform. So we're really happy about that. Otherwise, we've got a few varieties of basil and some sage. The salvia family is, of course, just a favorite for bees. Sure. So we have some of that on that end of the garden.
And I see another little display on the very far end. What is that?
That's another, well, we have a lot of fun in this committee. So I went on a tour a couple of years ago, a garden tour, and they were doing vertical gardening, which is basically hanging a picture of living plant material on a fence. And I thought, oh, we can do that in the herb garden. So one of the committee members did that for us this year. So we researched and found like miniature herbs. We grew them, so we have like small hawkweed, mouse ear hawkweed, and a lot of weird things that we've never even grown before, but they were all miniature. Then she put them into a frame down at that end of the garden, and it's in the form and the shape of a bee skep. So we were relating it to bee research, and it took a lot of time and a lot of love and patience, and it was a really fun project. So we've elevated it, and we've been tending it. It gets a little tricky to try and keep it watered and alive when it's vertical, out in the middle of a cornfield, basically, but it's been a lot of fun project.
Well, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for sharing your knowledge about the herb garden here at Umore Park.
Oh, you are more than welcome. Come back anytime.
Closed captioning is provided by Mark and Margaret Yackel Julien in honor of Shalom Hill Farm, a nonprofit rural education retreat center in a beautiful prairie setting near Windham in southwestern Minnesota. Shalom Hill Farm, shalomhill.org.